T-minus 9 minutes. T-minus 8 minutes. T-minus 7 minutes. T-minus 6 minutes. T-minus 5 minutes. minutes. T-minus 2 minutes. T-minus 1 minute. Stand by.
How about that?
Heyo! Welcome to a brand new week, everybody. It is the RP show. And look at this. For the first time in 1,500 and I think 96 shows, I left my notepad about 10 feet away, but I think that's okay. Scruffy joins us. What I can guarantee you is it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun over the next 2 hours here on Game Plus Television. An hour two, our friends in Nevada join on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. Baseball, NFL, CFL, NHL, college, we've got it all. And I'm going to tell you why I don't think this is the best time of the year. I'm going to tell you why that is in a second. But Scruffy is here. How you doing, Scruffalicious?
I'm good. Yourself? Did you get some Canadian Thanksgiving into your belly this weekend, even though you're in Florida?
You know, it's funny you say that. Friday night, I went to the Bare Knuckle Ice Wars at the American Bank Arena. Thanks, Brent from Wellington, Florida, for treating us to that. And they had turkey on the buffet. We were in the highfalutin Amerit Vault on Friday night. And here's the thing, Mitch. I had turkey. I had cranberries, which for whatever reason you don't like, gravy, and it was amazing. But I'm ready to get back on the air. After 3 days off, what you know that you, of all people, know that once you step off the hot plate, it becomes harder to step back onto the hot plate. You know what I mean? I'm ready for a longer break. So we're ready to talk sports. Let's go. Let's get it going with baseball first, okay? The Seattle Mariners, the only big league team to never host a World Series game, are 2 wins away from ending that drought. The Mariners, with home runs from Julio Rodriguez, Jorge Polanco, and Canadian Josh Naylor, routed the Blue Jays 10-3 on Monday to grab a 2-0 lead in the best-of-7 ALCS. Mariners host Game 3 on Wednesday in Seattle. As a matter of fact, Games 3, 4, and 5, if necessary, will all be in the Emerald City. Mitch, I feel like we all watched it, and I'm a little surprised. Help me out with this. I don't see a lot of furor over John Schneider again taking out his starting pitcher a little early. I don't know what feed you're getting. I'm watching the Fox feed. Scott Rosenthal, or whatever the guy's name is, Ken Rosenthal, interviewing John Schneider. He's like, take me through why you pulled your pitcher so early. And he's like,
Are you talking Game 1 or Game 2?
No, Game 2. I'm seeing very little. I'm seeing less furor over Game 2 than I am over Game 1 as the series shifts to Seattle with the Blue Jays down 0-2. Unless I'm missing it, I don't see a lot of furor.
I just don't think Trey Yesavage really had it yesterday, Rod. He gave up the 3 runs in the first inning, and yes, one of them, that first inning changed, but you could say that for both teams because of a terrible call against Randy Arozarena, who led off the game. It led to 3 runs, the Julio Rodriguez homer. I didn't think Yesavage had it right from the get-go, and yeah, he looked average yesterday. And at this time of year, average isn't going to win you games. Just ask Blake Snell of the Dodgers. He wasn't average last night, and the Dodgers win that game as they cooled off Milwaukee. Look at what Seattle did in Game 1. Pitching wins in the playoffs, Rod. And, that game yesterday, give Toronto credit. They came back to tie that game up after that terrible start. And again, the umpire, Doug Eddings, had a lot to do with that because George Springer should have been out, but he wasn't. In fact, Doug Eddings yesterday blew 24 calls, which is the most in a playoff game since 2022, when coincidentally Doug Eddings was behind the plate. So Doug Eddings was a walking advertisement for the ABS that's going to come in next year yesterday. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Toronto just did not have it yesterday. They just do not have the same.
Okay, we got it. We got to move on.
Whatever it was that they had against the Yankees.
Okay, well, Vladdy's 0 for 7 at the plate. And that's the thing.
Yep.
I'm not seeing as much criticism over John Schneider for yanking him. You just explained why. That's why it's a very good explanation. Yesavage just didn't have it in Game 2.
I was watching this morning a show on Sportsnet, Blue Jays Plus, and I find it funny that the criticism is now going back to Vladdy because of his performance in the first 2 games. Without Vladdy, I don't know if Toronto was even in this series after what he did against the Yankees. But right now, he's not doing at the plate what he was doing against New York. And if that continues, it's going to be, Blue Jays lose.
Yeah, good one. Well, I've been around long enough, as have you. If you're going to win, everything needs to go right, and everybody needs to be pulling on the rope through the whole thing. And right now for the Blue Jays, they're not. But as Yogi Berra says, it's not over till it's over. Okay, moving on. Point 2. Monday Night Football, Bijan Robinson matched to career high with 170 rushing yards, and the Atlanta Falcons denied Josh Allen's comeback attempt to beat the visiting Buffalo Bills 24-14. Robinson's day included an 81-yard touchdown run. That's the longest this year in the NFL. And in the other game, Caleb Williams and the Bears did get the better of Jaden Daniels and the Commanders on a final play score. Chicago defeated Washington 25-24 on Jake Moody's 38-yard field goal on Monday. The Bears extended their NFL win streak to 3 games under first-year head coach Ben Johnson. We'll delve into far more of this later on because we're up against it already at time here in the opening segment. 2 upsets to end Week 6. But Mitch, Dan Patrick casually threw this out on the radio yesterday. He said, is the NFL oversaturating the sports market? And I'm thinking, I can't believe he would say that. But that's our poll question today for EMJ Marketing. And what Dan Patrick said was, we got Thursday games. We got 12 hours on Sunday and now 2 games on Monday night. Be mindful of the fact we have 90 seconds left here, but I'm voting no. I don't think the NFL is oversaturating the sports market, but what are you voting?
I'm voting no as well. I guess maybe my only caveat to that would be, are we really getting up at 7:30 in the morning to watch the New York Jets and the Denver Broncos from England? And I understand that the NFL wants to go global, and have these games in Europe, but the Sunday morning games to me are a tough watch.
Yeah, but that's the whole idea.
Yeah, well, I agree.
As a guy coming from the recovery field who like to overindulge, it sounds stupid for me to say, but if it's too much, walk away. We're not going to watch 12
Well, exactly.
hours, okay? It's a buffet. You're not going to eat all of the buffet. So take a little of what you like. I was just a little surprised that Dan Patrick would say that. By the way, Pump Jacks brings you hour 1 of the RP show, Pump Jacks Steakhouse and Saloon. That's Pump Jacks Cathedral in Regina, Pump Jacks Weyburn. Come early, stay late at the place where friends meet. On the way, a lot of CFL talk, as well as NHL. The Scruffy's Oilers are at New York tonight. Dun, dun, dun. I got my Oilers shirt on just for you, Mitchell. Mitchell! So we'll be right back.
Don't see a logo there, Roddy.
Oh, it's blue and orange. Stop it. I got blue and orange, believe it or not, still in my veins. Don't tell anybody. We'll be back. We're live here on the Game Plus Television Network, YouTube Live podcast, and of course, 1700 AM Mission Radio.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Looking for a new ride without the big city pressure? Come to Western Dodge in Moose Jaw, where you'll find an unbeatable lineup of Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Dodge Muscle, and Chrysler family rides. With knowledgeable staff, great prices, and that friendly Moose Jaw touch, you'll drive away with confidence. Western Dodge. Big selection, small town service. Visit us today or browse online at westerndodge.ca.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too.
Al-Anon and
Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Nazareth's Canadian Farewell Tour is coming to Moose Jaw. Live at Temple Garden Center, October 17th. With special guest, Lee Aaron. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or sasktix.ca.
Our reminder, everybody, the text line is brought to you by Western Dodge, 902-518-3033. Moose Jaw's go-to for Ram trucks and Jeep adventures. You guessed it, Western Dodge. Stop in today. We have our junior hockey report coming up. Mitchell Scruffy Blair's with us on this Tuesday. Hope you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving weekend. We jump to CFL now. Montreal Alouettes fans had plenty to be thankful for on Thanksgiving. Quarterback Davis Alexander ran his career record to 10-0 as the Alouettes routed Ottawa 30-10 at a sold-out Percival Molson Stadium. We'll get to all the other games first, but Mitch, I'm sure you watched it. It was a wonderful Monday for me. The game was on CBS Sports Network here in Florida, so I watched it, and the full house at Percival Molson Stadium really does a guy's heart good, especially after what I saw in Edmonton on Saturday. You couldn't have got another body in that stadium in Montreal with a shoehorn. Meaningless game for Ottawa. Alouettes had to control the whole game, but not a bad way to spend a Monday afternoon.
I didn't see any of that game yesterday, but it was great to see that a game in Montreal was sold out. Fans there didn't make any excuses on the long weekend like another football team's fan base did. I won't get into that. But yeah, it was great to see the Alouettes win. I don't know what happened with Davis Alexander, but I know that sort of got a lot of people up in arms about him running short yardage. But hopefully for the Alouettes, Davis Alexander is fine because like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and like a lot of teams in the CFL, Rod, and we've talked about this before, when the number 2 guy comes in, you're not as good as what you are when the number 1 guy's in. And we've seen that this year with Davis Alexander.
You know, it's funny. So he's now set the Canadian Football League record at 10-0. The record was held by Danny McManus. Best start, 9-0. And I'm trying to remember the reason why Jim Barker said it's a not real record. Can you tell me, or can anybody remind me why Barker? I mean, 10-0 is 10-0. You can look at it a bunch of different ways. Bill Parcells said it first. John Lynch made it famous. Your record is you are what your record says you are. He's 10-0. Why would anybody think that's a fake, phony record?
He's 10-0. Like what? Whether they've won games by 10 points or 1 point, 10 point, or 30 points. He's been the starting quarterback. So I don't know what Jim is getting at with that, but you can't take away the fact he's 10-0.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey, by the way, the reason I'm a little stunned, not anybody's fault. I opened up the Western Dodge text line. I haven't had it open since Friday, and it's full of messages over the weekend. I think people need to know I am only on this phone during the show. 902-518-3033. I actually had a guy, welcome to life in our world. I had a guy write into our Facebook page, Mitch, and goes, how come you don't participate in the Facebook threads? You start them. Why don't you converse with the fans? I'm not even getting into that with an answer.
That's all right, Rod. I had somebody try to tell me this weekend that Toronto was the largest market in Major League Baseball, and I had to laugh.
Who was it? Tell me. Who was it?
Nah,
tell me.
There.
Okay,
nah,
okay.
The
other games in Week 19. Saskatchewan beat Toronto 27-19. I feel like that was the game you were referring to where people didn't go because it was the long weekend. The Calgary Stampeders snapped a 4-game losing streak with a 37-20 victory over Hamilton. And Edmonton beat Winnipeg 25-20. And I watched a lot of that game. It's funny you said, you didn't watch any of the CFL game yesterday. This is why I don't feel this is the best time of year. There's too much going on. It's great for guys like you and me. It's great for these shows. But like last night, I'm texting my sponsor, Bob. I'm like, hell of a baseball game. He's like, I'm having turkey watching football. Like, in the spring, we're all watching one thing. Stanley Cup playoffs. Right now, there's just so much going on.
Right. I understand that. But I think, with the long weekend and obviously, yesterday, and that was the case for me, I didn't watch the game yesterday because I was out at my mom's place having Thanksgiving lunch. So it was one of those situations where, I'm here to visit, not watching a football game. So I didn't see any of that game. And you understand that, and a lot of people do as well. But had I been home yesterday, the baseball game didn't start until 3 o'clock, so I would have watched it. But it was just and had the game been a Saturday afternoon game, I would have watched it. I watched a lot of the games on Saturday. I obviously watched all of the game on Friday. But when you have a game on a holiday Monday, that's a family holiday. It's not like Labor Day where I think a lot of people watch the two games. That's a tough one. And as I said, I didn't see that one, but had I been home, I would have watched it.
You didn't do anything wrong. Nobody did anything wrong here. Let me just throw that all out there. It's just you can't. I'm not going to be like Craig Smith. God bless him, our former director of scouting, Craig Smith, who's got 6 TVs on. I'm just not going to be that guy. And my brain doesn't work that way. I can really only follow one thing at once. That's just me.
So
John,
can I ask you this?
I feel like
are
you're
you
going
a
to ask
guy
me.
that watches Red Zone on Sunday, or do you concentrate on one game in particular?
I've been watching Red Zone for a couple of reasons. The biggest is the Cowboys aren't always on in this market. Usually the Dolphins and the Cowboys are playing at the same time, and the Dolphins get because I'm here. So if I want to see any of what the Cowboys are doing, I got to watch Red Zone. Hang on, John Ohm says the largest market in the entire country, isn't it the Blue Jays, Scruffy? You want to explain?
No, Major League Baseball.
Right. I'm pointing out. That's what Mitch said.
Yeah.
The biggest market in Major League Baseball. He thought you said Canada. He didn't.
No.
I was listening. By the way, BC Eric writes in, and I thank you. This is why I don't mind putting this. This is the view for sports fans. It's a coffee table discussion. BC Eric writes in, he says, the reason, Mitch, that Jim Barker didn't think it was a true record is because Davis Alexander, going back to last year, wasn't the number one in Montreal. He was the backup to Cody, and the games he started, he won, and that rolls into this year's record of 10-0, which I still think is a flimsy excuse. I don't know, BC Eric, if you agree with Jim on that or not. The record is what you are. He's just saying half of that record, he was the number 2. Does that hold any water with you?
But was he the starter when he won these games, or was he coming in relief?
Oh, he wasn't the starter for those games?
No, like if he starts and he wins, he gets the victory. So Cody was on the bench for whatever reason. I think it was because he was injured. He had the hamstring problem. Davis Alexander.
When you say he was on the bench, he wasn't dressed.
Right, exactly. Davis Alexander is 10-0 as the starting quarterback of the Montreal Alouettes. The fact that he was the number 2 quarterback at times because Cody was hurt doesn't mean anything. If Davis Alexander comes into 2 or 3 of those games, leads Montreal to a victory, then we can have a chat.
Well,
but I don't think he ever did that.
Where football's different is you only need to play one series and you're considered the starter and you get the win, if I have this right. Whereas in hockey and baseball, it's who's on the mound or who's in the net when the winning run scored goal scored.
Do you remember the controversy here? It was a Labor Day game. You were obviously doing the game. The Riders had an interception on the first play of the game, and Chris Jones brought Nick Marshall in to quarterback short yardage.
And he got the win.
And he got the win because he was the quarterback for the first play of the game. The Riders scored on that play and never gave up the lead. So Nick Marshall got the win, and Steve Daniel, the CFL statistician, had to go through things because then he was saying, well, no, Colaros gets the win because he was the quarterback of record, but he wasn't the quarterback on the first play, so they had to give the win to Nick Marshall.
Well, what we're all saying here, and BC Eric has stayed with the discussion, he says he wasn't the starter for those games, i.e., I guess he didn't start. Like, the CFL's not going to get it wrong. Just so we bang on them a lot, and you mentioned Steve Daniel. He's the guy that tracks these things. Maybe you don't like the rule, but he's not going to get the rule wrong.
Nope.
So what this smacks of to me is Jim Barker doesn't like the rule, but the CFL's following the rules, and he has set the record for the best start ever at 10-0. All right? So, yeah. Wayne Werbavetsky writes in, he says, the Bombers are looking at the Rider game October 17th as a defining contest, must win. If not for the crossover rule, they would now be out of the playoffs. And if not for. I don't like that. They are in the playoffs. So how do you feel about that? I get you're not used to the Bombers not being great. Okay, it's been a long time, but they're going to be in the playoffs. Now's not the time to be crapping on them if you're a Bomber fan, in my mind.
No, I agree. I think Winnipeg, the listener says it's a must-win game for them. I don't know if you heard the story coming out of Regina yesterday, but it looks like Jake Maier is going to start for the Riders, who are going to rest a lot of guys for this game and then dress regular guys for the regular season finale against BC before they take a break. So are the Riders handing one to Winnipeg with the lineup? On paper, yes. We all know that you don't play a game on paper, though, Rod, but this will be a big game for Winnipeg. And, again, and we've had this discussion many times, and it's involved the Riders or other teams. You wonder how the other teams feel about this when Winnipeg's still chasing a spot in the West. One of the teams they're chasing down is BC, and it looks like the Lions will get the Rider regulars for the regular season finale. So, but when
happens
you have
every
the
year
that you do, the Riders can do what they want.
Exactly. It happens every year. Why are we surprised? Why are we worried about this? By the way, John Ohm says, sorry, Scruffy, I misunderstood you. Just clarifying, Jeff the Stamps fan says, I agree, Scruffy. I'm a sports fan, but understand family events' importance. For those that just tuned in, Mitchell was saying, maybe we missed some of the things that happened on the weekend. It was Thanksgiving weekend. There were family things going on. It's one thing that I've realized when I went from my old job, I only was concerned about one team, the green team. That's it. So that was my job, right? Hosted a talk show about it every day, a TV show weekly, called the games. All I worried about was one team. Got into this job, all of a sudden you got to worry about every team in every league. It's impossible to do, right? It's fun staying on top of it, but I'm not going to be able to see everything or watch every game. And the other part is, I remember being in Anaheim, sports trip, went down there, hosted 60 people watching Ducks and NFL in San Diego, and was at a Ducks morning skate. And Ryan Kessler was back skating for the Ducks, but he hadn't played all year. And Rich Preston, their assistant coach, turns to me and says something along the lines of, yeah, hopefully we get Kess back soon. And I was like, hasn't played? He's like, you didn't know that? No, been pretty. I'm not following the ins and outs of the Anaheim Ducks roster, you know what I mean, on a daily basis. Yep. And I remember standing in Nissan Stadium in Tennessee, chatting with agent Gil Scott, who's probably watching here right now, one time, and he was like, oh yeah, rumor is Kelly McCrimmon's going to go take over the Seattle Kraken. That was when they were coming in as an expansion team, and he's going to hire Dave Tippett as his head coach. You heard that, right? And I said, oh, no, it's news to me. He's like, you haven't heard that? No, sorry. And by the way, the last I checked, it didn't happen. So it's one thing to stay up on top of things that are happening, let alone the rumor mill of everything that could happen. Anyways, when we come back, we'll switch gears to a lot of the NHL talk. As I said, Scruffy's Oilers are on the ice tonight in New York, and I have my Oilers top on in your honor, Mitch. And then viewer takeover with all of these questions and comments, because I feel like we haven't put the CFL to bed yet. And coming up in hour 2, Scott Belford joins us from the Walkoff podcast. Does a great job covering the Blue Jays, and he's also a stand-up comic. He's a hilarious guest. He's coming up in the next hour. We'll be back in a moment. You're watching us live on the Game Plus television network all across Canada and 32 U.S. states. YouTube Live, podcast, and, of course, 1700 Mission Radio. We will be right back.
Country's hottest party is coming. James Barker Band, Bud Light Buckle Up Tour 2025. Live across Canada with special guests Ryan and Rory. Yeah, let's keep it simple. November 20th, Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at zasktix.ca. James Barker Band Live.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina. This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Told you it's going to go fast and it's going to be a lot of fun. Hour one is brought to you in part by Suds Full Service Car Wash. Fuel your fleet's finesse with Suds Regina's unbeatable cleaning packages. They'll shine like new every time. Visit sudsregina.com. Scruffy is with me. Some NHL notes from Monday. Mason Appleton, this is point four, the quick six, scored the winner with 41.1 seconds left in regulation, and Cam Talbot made 38 saves as the Detroit Red Wings survived a blown 2-goal lead in the third period to top the Leafs last night. What was it, 3-2? Scored. They didn't put the score in.
I think so,
Pontus Holmberg put Tampa Bay up by 3 goals late in the second period, and the Lightning held on to beat the Boston Bruins 4-3. And Ottawa Senators coach Travis Green said Captain Brady Tkachuk is going through evaluation after he exited the team's Monday 4-1 loss to the Nashville Predators in the third period. It's amazing.
I can update that for you.
What did they say?
He's going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. That just came down.
Oh, my God. That's terrible. Okay, thank you. That's what's beautiful about daytime sports talk live. Scruffy's got the updates. But I saw Ottawa here Saturday night. I don't know if you were watching my story. Man, can Brady Tkachuk fly? Or he could until he got this injury. And I'm a Matthew Tkachuk fan, his brother. But I literally sat there, watched, because I go down to the ice for warm-up and like to watch the guys and what's going on. He can really fly. I wonder how does his brother not skate like this? Like they're brothers. I would have thought they had the exact same training growing. We've been around hockey our whole lives. It's a genetics thing, this and that. He can fly. Matthew Tkachuk
has never.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the face-off season 2 with Brady Tkachuk? Very good feature on him.
No, but everybody's telling me I need to watch it. And I have to apologize. I don't know. I watch those documentaries, like Quarterback on Netflix, it's not that fascinating to me. Because to me,
okay,
it's a little like watching Corner Gas. I lived it. It's not that funny.
That's
Why
fair.
does everybody think this is so funny? It's what we grew up with. It was our lives.
Like when you watch WKRP in Cincinnati, you go, yeah, I went through that.
You know the answer to that.
Yes, I do.
Right. Yeah.
We lived it, partner.
I watched it for Lonnie Anderson. I didn't watch for comedy. Come on, let's get real about it. But today marks the 1 week mark of the NHL season. And I went to tsn.ca. I was not scintillated by their story. Here's some takeaways from week 1. They weren't that good. I got more. Do you know who the only 2 unbeaten teams are 1 week in?
Colorado?
Oh, no, they lost. I believe they lost. I had it as, I'd have to look it up here, but I had it as Carolina and Seattle. Let me just make sure on that.
Sorry, yeah, you know what? I meant to say Carolina, not Colorado, but you would have got me on Seattle.
Would have got myself on Seattle. Colorado's 3-0-1. They've lost in overtime.
Okay.
But with the Oilers going into the Rangers tonight, let's give me an Oilers take because we got so many viewers up there.
You know what? The first 2 games, obviously opening night, Stuart Skinner doesn't help his cause out any with what was a terrible goal that led to Calgary winning that game in a shootout. I talked about that in the column I write for you last weekend. They looked all right against Vancouver the other night. They're still, obviously, and you could say this with every team, they're still a team that's trying to find their way. And, I'll be interested to see how they play against the Rangers tonight, because I thought the Rangers would come out of the gate better, and they haven't. So let's see what happens tonight. These are a couple of teams that I think are still trying to find their way, and a couple of teams, Edmonton more so than the Rangers, that people think could go a long way this year. So I'm looking forward to watching that one tonight.
It's been a week. A week. We can't make well. The only generalization
about 10 years.
I was going to say the only generalization I've seen is that the Sabres season is over. Nobody would argue with that, and they're 0-3.
Yeah.
But we all knew that. I mean, it's a little like this. By the way, from the audience, it'll be all viewer comments next segment once Scruffy adjourns. But regarding WKRP, Scott in Vancouver says Bailey Quarters was even hotter. Take off the glasses. I disagree, but that's what makes the world go around.
No, I'm Team Bailey, Ruddy.
Jeff, the Stamps fan, says, was there a secretary like Jennifer Marlowe? Yes, there was. He's talking about in real radio. There was. Rich in Edmonton says, I like Corner Gas, but I'm from suburban Edmonton. Now, if you're a city guy, I could see why you would find it funny. But my whole life is Corner Gas, Letterkenny, and Last Chance U. Like, that's been, none of those shows scintillate me because I lived it. You know what I mean? That's all. Now they're going off on a WKRP tangent. We'll have to do that later because of this. There's a couple things I wanted to get to you with. Brian Callahan, Tennessee Titans, first NFL coach fired. I don't think that surprises anybody. Who do you think's next? Who do you think's next?
Great question. Just for the fact that, I don't think teams are going to allow current coordinators to go anywhere, and I'm trying to think of who might be out there. I will tell you this, if you want a hot take, college football, Penn State, John Gruden.
Maybe. Firing their coach at 3-3. How about that? Well, it's, to me, I think it's going to be Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins, and I wish we could keep Mitch for another segment because this is going so fast. But there's a lot of bad teams in the NFL. But, I mean, you're not going to fire Aaron Glenn with the Jets. He's in his first year. This thing with what Tua said at the podium on Sunday about how they've got players that are late for players-only meetings. Listen, I know this team's dysfunctional, the Dolphins, but that's not Mike McDaniel's fault. You can put a lot of things on Mike McDaniel, but you can't put it on him that the players are late for players-only meetings.
Well,
you look like you disagree with me. If it's team meetings...
Yeah, you can, because at the end of the day, the coach is the guy, right? And if you're not showing up for meetings, what's going on?
What the Dolphins players are saying about that, by the way, is this should all be policed in the locker room, and Tua should have never said it at the podium. This is they're redefining dysfunction with the Miami Dolphins, which leads me into, oh my God, Mitch, we could go on about that, because I want to know who you think will be the first NHL coach fired. Last year was Jim Montgomery of the Bruins, and nobody picked that. There was like 5 guys that were on a hot seat going into the NHL season a year ago. Nobody picked Jim Montgomery, and it ended up being him. And 5 days later, the Blues hired him. But is it unfair to ask that question about the NHL? Who will be the first?
Right now, I think it is. Can we let the season breathe a little bit? Can we take the pot off? Let the water boil a little bit before we start checking things out. We talk about Buffalo and the fact that they're 0-3. Well, that doesn't sit well. But, yeah, let's just let's wait for a week or two. Let's wait until the 1st of November before we start having that conversation.
I got a million thoughts on all of this. I wish we had more time. And Belichick, who do you believe? Do you believe he's trying to get out of there?
No, I don't, because I don't think the NFL wants Bill Belichick. I really don't, because I think if they did, he'd be in the NFL still today. So Bill Belichick's getting a paycheck, and unless he has something up his sleeve where he's going to get a paycheck, I think he wants to stay at North Carolina. But does North Carolina want to keep him at the price it's going to cost them? I don't know.
What a fascinating story. Out of all the things going on in football and college football, that's the number one thing. Did a search this morning to bring up stuff on this show, and it's all about Belichick issuing 2 statements now saying he's not trying to get out of there, and they're 2-3. Who actually thought this would go well? Not me at all.
I was interested to see how it would go. And I think a lot of people were thinking that we were going to see another Deion Sanders-like story here. But I thought you had to give Bill at least 1 year. Let him get the guys that he's brought into the program start to flourish, because there are guys, obviously, that are there now that were there before he became the head coach. But it's an ugly situation, and obviously Bill's lady has a part to play in that, but
yeah, we got to run.
Situation.
Thank you, Scruffy. We'll be right back, everybody, on Game Plus.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Welcome back, y'all. I feel like we got all the topics covered I wanted to with Mitch. We just didn't get too deep into them. And that's 40 minutes long, man. It's a good thing we go for as long as we do. By the way, viewer takeover coming up for the rest of the program, or this hour anyways. Hour 2 will continue on Game Plus TV, but then we will also be across Nevada on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network, which, by the way, I've been in touch with a lot of the Golden Knights people, and they will be coming on this show. Darren Millard has pledged his involvement probably as early as next week. The longtime television host and pride of Brandon, Manitoba, Darren Millard will be with us next week, but they're playing tonight in Calgary, the Golden Knights. It's busy, busy, busy time for these guys. So I'll tell you, when we get these sports personalities in season, it's a real blessing. And I can't wait to have Darren Ducky Millard on. By the way, Hour 1 is brought to you in part by Outlaw Communications. When you're looking for strategic communications with impact, Outlaw Communications delivers, led by Tony Plater with 35 years of communication and leadership experience. He specializes in media relations training, leadership coaching, crisis communication strategy. Do you need sharp writing or website content? Tony will make it connect. Give him a call, 306-570-6913, or visit tonyplater.com. Just before we do get to the viewer comments here, and they've gone off here, back to the CFL stuff. I try to get as much CFL talk in the first hour as we can because we don't do it hardly at all in the second hour. Scott in Vancouver writes in and he says, someone asked Commissioner Stuart Johnston if he might get rid of the East versus West divisions, and then it would be all one division like the WNBA. Okay, so what did he say? Somebody asked him, what was his answer? That's what I would love to know. Man, that's the other thing I saw. I can't remember the Twitter account this morning. Somebody said, oh, now we found out that TSN personalities knew about these rule changes ahead of time. What else do they know? Guys, come on. I want to sit here every day and give you remedial media training 101. We report like 5% of what we know. What were these guys supposed to say? spill the beans before Stuart Johnston had a chance? Like, come on. Can you please bloody well get over it? God. Horse dead meat. That same Scott, by the way, as we talk about NFL coach firings, he says Bill Belichick to the Dolphins, tick off the Patriots fans. The Patriots fans are too giddy with the fact, look at the standings. The Patriots are first place in the division, just so you know. The Patriots are back. And it was like last week, a week ago Monday, that was our poll question, are the Patriots back? That's the thing. I see these things before everybody else. I'm watching ESPN this morning. Oh, the Patriots are back. I said they were back last week. And you talk about NFL teams and their rebuilds. You know, who's ahead? Who? Like the New York Jets have been rebuilding since 1969. Wasn't that when they won the Super Bowl with Joe Namath? 1969. That's how long their rebuild's been. Meanwhile, the Patriots go through, a really bad year with Belichick at the end, go to Gerard Mayo. Then all of a sudden, Mike Vrabel's available, so they fire Mayo, bring in Vrabel. Ta-da! Rebuild complete in New England. How come that didn't take hardly any time at all? And here in Miami, I'm with Scruffy. I don't think Belichick is welcome in the NFL anywhere. And the only reason why I don't think they fired Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins yet is owners hate firing coaches for a lot of reasons. They hate it. GMs don't mind it at all, I don't think, but owners hate it because they don't like blowing money. Who does? And the last time they fired a coach, Brian Flores, it got really, really, really ugly. Like lawsuits were involved. He blew the whistle, Flores did, on the owner. He ended up getting suspended for half a season. So I don't think Belichick's going anywhere, let alone Miami, I guess, is the to land the plane there. 902-518-3033 is the text line brought to you by Western Dodge. And by the way, just on that Stuart Johnston thing, Scott White's Rod, he said it would be under consideration. And then you could get an all-Western Grey Cup, for instance, without a crossover. Yeah, but that's to me, the biggest reason why they haven't done it yet is they don't want an all-Western Grey Cup, I don't think. Carlos in Indianapolis writes, and he says, if Belichick can't turn the Dolphins around in that hypothetical, it will tarnish his coaching legacy a little bit more. It would reinforce the can't win without Brady narrative. Darren in Utah writes in, he says, the only owner who would hire Belichick is Al Davis, and he's not around. It's a fascinating story. It's what everybody's talking about in football here. And it's like, Bill, just go away. Why do you need to keep coaching? He looks, and Pete Carroll's doing it in Vegas, and a lot of guys in their 70s are still coaching. Belichick didn't want it. Just so you know, very few people get to write their own ending. Bill, you're not going to be the first. Saban did. Why can't you be like Nick? It's time for your sports update brought to you by Ultimate Fan Zone in Moose Jaw. Your home for jerseys, collectibles, and all the gear you need. Visit them today or shop online at ultimatefanzone.ca. Ottawa Senators forward Brady Tkachuk is expected to miss 4 weeks with an injury sustained in the team's 4-1 loss to the Predators Monday. TSN's Claire Hanna, friend of the show, reports that Tkachuk suffered a hand/wrist injury and that the team is currently evaluating whether or not surgery will be required to address the issue. Meanwhile, the Montreal Canadiens have signed general manager Kent Hughes and hockey operations executive Jeff Gorton to multi-year contract extensions the team announced today. Hughes and Gorton have presided over an impressive turnaround in Montreal, with the team defying expectations by returning to the playoffs last season after a 3-year absence. Meanwhile, Vegas Golden Knights right winger Pavel Dorofeyev, Ottawa center Shane Pinto, and Florida Panthers goalie Sergei Bobrovsky have been named the NHL's 3 stars of the week. The Toronto Blue Jays head west as the American League Championship Series shifts to Seattle. With the Mariners up 2-0. Toronto dropped the opener 3-1 and lost 10-3 last night at Rogers Center. The next 3 games are scheduled at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, where the Mariners can still clinch their first ever World Series berth in front of their home crowd. The sports update, as mentioned, is for Ultimate Fan Zone Sports Store. Get your game day gear in store or online at ultimatefanzone.ca. Thank you, Scott. Where are you? Graham, Washington. What are you watching us on, Scott? He has pointed out that the Stars are unbeaten. What is their record? And where is Allie from Texarkana, by the way? Let's go to the big board. Just happen to have the NHL up on the app. Yeah, 2-0. How about that? Only team without a loss. Seattle, Carolina, and Dallas. But again, it's been a week. A week today. 902-518-3033 is the text line for Western Dodge, as we mentioned. I'm just sifting through. I'll say it again. I don't know when people are going to get it. This text line, I only have open for the show. So you can't write me on I appreciate those that were writing in over the weekend, the Happy Thanksgivings, the this and that, but I didn't get it till today. Wayne in Victoria, BC writes in, he says, with all the changes coming to the CFL, why not at least modify the playoffs so that the top 6 teams make the playoffs? For the reasons that I said earlier. They want an East and a West. Now, that's not to say things can't change. Shoot, they're changing the size of the field. They're moving the goalposts. To me, it's a little funny that all those things that I was covering and pushing for my decades covering and working in the CFL, and was all told, that won't work, Rod. Now they're doing it. For instance, the $20 and $30 tickets to Rider games that I was told forever wouldn't work. That won't work, Rod. Just shut up and call the games. Okay, that's your job. Just do that, and we'll do the marketing. And then, meanwhile, the stadium's empty, and they have to go to $20 tickets, which they still can't sell. I will say this: it was heartwarming to turn on the telly Monday and see a jam-packed Percival Molson Stadium in Montreal. One thing I will say about the CFL is every game day atmosphere is great. And yes, that includes Calgary. My favorite, of course, is Saskatchewan. Number 2 would be BC. Number 3 is Ottawa. Montreal is fun, but it's very, very hostile in there. Make some noise. It's very hostile in there. As a visitor, they don't make you very comfortable. And Winnipeg, even worse, although they'd be proud of that. You can say in Winnipeg, you don't go in there and have the fans stab you in the back. You go in there, they stab you in the front, right in the chest. I respect that. That's why I think we get along so well with Winnipeg fans. From the second I went off the air as voice of the Riders, within months was back up and running on this show, the RP show. Winnipeg was number 2 for viewership for us because they appreciate my realness and I appreciate theirs. And as I said earlier, I don't think now's the time to be dumping on the Blue Bombers. Do we not understand by now just getting into the playoffs is where it's at? And they'll be in. Get healthy and figure it out. They will. Next hour, we're going a course across Canada on Game Plus TV and 32 U.S. states, but we'll also be across Nevada on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. Comedian and podcaster Scott Belford will join us from the Walkoff podcast. He's always good. We'll be back with Hour 2 right after this.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Famoso. Italian Pizzeria and Bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Famoso, Italian Pizzeria and Bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
How about that?
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. It's the RP Show coming at you on the Game Plus TV network and across Nevada on the wonderful Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. It is the RP Show, and we got to go fast here on the opening segment because we've got a very special guest. All the guests are special, but I'm excited to welcome Scott Belford to the program. Hi. Here in hour 2 as we go 2 hours on Game Plus, 1 on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. Scott Belford hosts the Walkoff podcast. We're going to be talking a lot of baseball, just so you know. He's also a stand-up comic, which I have a personal fascination with. I've never done it, but I'm just fascinated by it. We always, once we get through the baseball talk, we start to talk about stand-up comedy. I love that. And I forgot to get to our NHL breakaway bets picks. There are 8 games in the NHL tonight, including the Vegas Golden Knights at the Calgary Flames, one of 8 games. So we've got a lot to get to. Let's go, everybody. Are you seated? Let's begin. Point 1 of the Quick Six show topics here today. Blake Snell allowed 1 base runner in 8 shutout innings before LA's bullpen barely held on in the 9th as the visiting Dodgers opened the NLCS on Monday with a 2-1 victory over the Milwaukee Brewers. Blake Trinan struck out Bryce Turang with the bases loaded to end it. Freddie Freeman homered for the 6th to break a scoreless tie. They'll be getting after it in Game 2 tonight. But as we've said, we're always the Blue Jays show, which reminds me, where did my Blue Jays sign go? I'll find it. But the Seattle Mariners, the only big league team to never host a World Series game, are now 2 wins away from doing just that and ending the drought. The Mariners with home runs from Julio Rodriguez, Jorge Polanco, And Canadian Josh Naylor routed the Toronto Blue Jays 10-3 on Monday to grab a 2-0 lead in the American League Championship Series. The next 3 games, if it even goes to Game 5, will all be in Seattle. And I want to hear from the Blue Jays fans, the Canadian viewers. Where are you at? 902-518-3033 on the Western Dodge text line, because what a letdown. They had the first round bye through the wild card series, and they watched the Yankees beat up on the Red Sox, and then they beat up on the Yankees in the American League Division Series, a record amount of runs. And all of a sudden we get into the ALCS, and it's psst. Vladdy 0 for 7 at the plate. And I was a little surprised. Skipper John Schneider seems to be escaping a lot of heat from Blue Jays fans and the media for yanking his 2 starters in games 1 and 2 conceivably early. We discussed this last hour. Mitchell Scruffy Blair was with us. He's baseball first, believe it or not. That's his number 1 sport. And he's like, Trey Savage didn't have it. Gave up the 3-run home run early in the game. And I'm like, yeah, but the Blue Jays battle back to tie at 3-3. Mentally, it should be all even after that. But nobody's on John Schneider's ass. I think everybody's just hopeful that this series ain't over as they cross the continent to go to the Emerald City to see if they can get back in this thing. So anyways, that's the baseball story. This ALCS has been a big so far as Blue Jays fans go. Point 2, Monday Night Football was 2 upsets. Bijan Robinson matched a career high with 170 rushing yards, and the Atlanta Falcons denied Josh Allen's comeback attempt to beat the visiting Buffalo Bills 24-14 Monday night. And don't look now, but the New England Patriots are atop the AFC East. And as we told you last week, the Patriots are back. In the other Monday nighter, Caleb Williams and the Bears did get the better of Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders on a final play score. Chicago defeated Washington 25-24 on Jake Moody's 38-yard field goal on Monday, and the Bears extended their win streak under first-year coach Ben Johnson to 3 games. I don't think anybody's going to say that the Bears are back. It's going to take a lot more than this. But after what I thought was a ho-hum Week 6, 2 big upsets to end Week 6 on Monday Night Football. But Dan Patrick just casually threw this out on the radio on Monday for us Canadians, Thanksgiving Day Monday, which I apologize to our U.S. viewers that we weren't here on Monday. But our overlords wanted to observe the Canadian Thanksgiving, and who am I to say no? So anyways, I'm listening to Dan Patrick on the radio here, and he just casually threw out on the radio, is the NFL oversaturating the market? And I don't know if you have the means, Producer Corey, or not. Producer Corey from Skycron, who's lovingly bringing you this program daily on Game Plus TV and the Silver State Sports Entertainment Network. Do you have a poll update, by the way? I mean, I could look it up. The poll is the NFL oversaturating the sports market? You can hit refresh on YouTube. It works. Or I can go to Twitter. What do you got? It's all good. Hey, on Twitter, 59% are saying, yes, it is. And I'm sorry, no, he is not on Twitter. Yeah, so he's finding what the YouTube result is, but 59% on Twitter are saying, yes, the NFL is oversaturating the sports market. Now, having said that, through 1,596 episodes, our wheelhouse of viewers largely is NHL and CFL fans, Canadians. That's just a fact. But I'm going to vote no. And by the way, what Dan Patrick was saying was, hey, you got a game Thursday. We had 12 hours of football on Sunday with 4 games back to back to back. And then 2 more games on Monday night. Is that too much? Well, I would have thought we're living in a time in society where there is no such thing as too much. It's the generation of more. Like literally, if you find there's too much NFL, walk away, change the channel. That's part of the reason why I don't necessarily like this time of year. It's not my favorite time of year. I'm like the only person that feels that way. 99% of sports fans seem to think this is. But I'm watching the Blue Jays game 2, texting my sponsor Bob Monday night saying, hell of a ball game. He writes me back and goes, oh, I'm eating turkey. We're watching Monday Night Football. And then the Florida Panthers were playing on TV as well. So I'm going back with that. There's too much going on for my pea brain to follow it all. So it's a no from me, dog, but 59% are saying, yeah, it's oversaturating the market. And I can tell you this, they don't care. Our Game Plus viewers have known this for a long time. Our U.S. viewers on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network will not. But January, as I was looking to go to the Super Bowl and broadcast this program for a third time from the Super Bowl, this time in New Orleans, I get a note back from the NFL saying, hey, Rod, hey, great to hear from you. Space is limited on Radio Row in New Orleans. And if you talk, we don't have room for you, but if you talked more NFL on your show, we might be able to find room for you. And I'm like, the ball's on these guys. I mean, wait, it is the NFL. So they can dictate whatever they want, but I might still like to talk about other things. But now here we are on the air in another NFL market, Las Vegas and Nevada. That probably would help if we want to go to San Francisco this year to the Super Bowl, because it is a great time. I'm just not sure that I want to. Hour 2 is brought to you in part by Pump Jacks Cathedral and Pump Jacks Weyburn. Come early, stay late at the place where friends meet. Point 3 of our Quick Six show topics. We do cover the CFL daily here, the Canadian Football League, and Thanksgiving was good for Montreal Alouettes fans. Quarterback Davis Alexander ran his career record to a perfect 10-0 to start his career as the Alouettes beat Ottawa 30-10. We talked about that a lot last hour. In the other games, Saskatchewan beat Toronto 27-19 to clinch first place overall in the league. Calgary Stampeders snapped a 4-game losing streak with a 37-20 victory at Hamilton. And the Edmonton Elcamos, before a largely empty stadium, beat Winnipeg 25-20 to keep their thin playoff hopes alive. We can talk more about that later when we get to viewer takeover, because there are 8 NHL games tonight. And before I jump to those, because, yeah, Nevada is an NFL market, but Toronto and Nevada are both NHL markets. We've got breaking news on 2 fronts. Brady Tkachuk, the captain of the Ottawa Senators, we learned this morning will be out 4 weeks with a hand-wrist injury suffered Monday in a loss to Nashville. And I'll tell you this, I watched Ottawa play at Florida Saturday night, and it was not the first time I saw Brady Tkachuk live, but it was the first time that I was down at ice level, because I generally go down for warm-up to watch. And by the way, that is the Canadian term, and it will always be warm-up on this program, not warm-ups. And I couldn't believe how fast that kid is, Tkachuk. And the burst, as they say. Sports people know what that is. The first move, gone. I'm like, man, how come his brother doesn't skate like that? It's a genetic thing, ergonomic thing. Anyways, we're not going to be watching Brady Tkachuk for 4 weeks out of the Ottawa Senators lineup, and that sucks for them. And there's news out of Montreal. We have a lot of viewers in Quebec, La Belle Province. The Montreal Canadiens have signed general manager Kent Hughes and hockey operations executive Jeff Gorton to multi-year contract extensions. The team announced this morning Hughes and Gorton have presided over an impressive turnaround in Montreal, with the team defying expectations by returning to the playoffs last season after a 3-year absence. And you know what? Back to the rebuild thing. As we were saying last hour, I'll bring it up again here. How come some teams can figure it out relatively quickly while other teams cannot, especially in a salary cap era? You know, you look at the New York Jets still fumbling around, the Buffalo Sabres still fumbling around. Montreal was in the Stanley Cup final in 2021, if you remember, against Tampa Bay, and back last spring. I mean, you got, what's Buffalo, 15 years? Going to be 15 years? I have to apologize. I'm just dipping in on the Western Dodge text line, 902-518-3033. Steve says the NFL Network plays a huge part in that. Steve's watching in Steinbach, Manitoba. Are you talking about the oversaturation of coverage? Whatever it is. I mean, it's that, but it's playing games on multiple nights and now multiple games on Monday. I don't think the NFL, and I don't think it's a criticism from Dan Patrick. I do not. But it's not like the NHL and NBA and every other league, by the way, that plays every single day with multiple games. So how could we possibly, the NFL just wants a bigger piece of the pie. And by the way, they're winning. So There's an NHL network. There's an MLB network. Trust me, they don't pull in a fraction of the ratings of what the NFL does. It's a lot of things that have come together to get the NFL where it's at. And let's remember, baseball used to be America's pastime. It's not anymore. CFL used to be Canada's #1 football league. It's not anymore. It's not just NFL Network. But as you said, it's a factor. It's not the whole reason. Regarding Scott Belford, who's coming up next, and it's 11 minutes after the hour. We stop and observe. You are supported. Whether you know it or not, you are. Just go with it. Scott Belford from the Walkoff podcast coming up next, and a stand-up comic. Darcy in Grand Prairie writes in and says, the Walkoff podcast is my go-to for all things Blue Jays in the off-season. Great guest, RP. Oh, and he's got questions for Scott, which I will save for when Scott Belford joins us next. I got to thank my business manager and the show's operations manager, Joe 747 Gunnis, for lining up Scott Belford of the Walkoff podcast. So thank you for the kind words. I'm very much looking forward to talking baseball with him, but also stand-up comedy. As a matter of fact, before we get Scott Belford on, can we talk again about who's your all-time favorite stand-up comic? Who's your all-time? I want everybody to think about it. And you can write in the YouTube chat, or you can write the Western Dodge text line, 902-518-3033. I need to think about it a lot, and it's a little ironic that my two favorite are the cleanest and the dirtiest. Jerry Seinfeld, regarded as the cleanest stand-up comic, never swears, doesn't use filth in his act. And then there's Andrew Dice Clay, who, early 90s, I left a cassette tape in my car deck of my 1984 Mustang L. And my dad took the car for a rip. The tape was still in the deck. Dad comes home and says, you find that guy funny? I'm like, Dad, he's not serious. Come on, Dad. Dad and I had very dissimilar senses of humor. He didn't find Jerry Seinfeld funny at all. But if you go look up a list of the funniest, I never got to the NHL games. Scott Belford, if you're tuned in or logged in, you and I are going to have to do NHL picks next. There's 8 games tonight, including Vegas at Calgary, Nashville at Toronto. But we're going to go a little off-roading here, which we will do from time to time. Our regular viewers know that on Game Plus. Our new viewers are finding it out. If you go look up the top 100 comedians of all time, you're going to see a lot of Richard Pryor, a lot of George Carlin. But I tell you what, you've heard of every one of the top 100. You've heard of them. Because I didn't think it would be that hard to populate a list of the top 100 stand-up comics. And then you look and it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot. Joan Collins, Don Rickles, Bill Cosby, who was my favorite until, you know. By the way, we do the junior hockey report for the Mad Greek, and we didn't do it last hour, so let's do it now. Only one game of the dub tonight, Spokane at Medicine Hat. Wednesday, the Moose Jaw Warriors welcome the Kamloops Blazers. The Warriors 6th in the East at 4-3-1. Stop in at the Mad Greek and tell Johnny Yatridis that you heard us talking about him, okay? At the Mad Greek. From classic to loaded, pizza night starts at the Mad Greek Eatery. Order online, pick up, or dine in at the madgreekeatery.com. There's your junior hockey report. We love it so much. Oh, and by the way, you can go to rodpeterson.com right now for the latest 10 WHL Things column written by Glenn Erickson in Medicine Hat. Scott Belford joins us next from the Walkoff podcast. We're going to be doing hockey picks and some stand-up comedy talk as well. Coming up right after this.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live. Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
All right, we're back on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network plus Game Plus TV for our Canadian viewers. They're excited. The CFL Saskatchewan Roughriders announcing 2-year contract extensions for General Manager Jeremy O'Day and Head Coach Corey Mace, fresh off clinching first on Friday. Scott Belford is here. I don't know how long you've been watching, Scott, in the green room back there, but you're very popular with our guests. I asked them to list their favorite stand-up comics. The names coming in: Bill Burr, Norm Macdonald, Robin Williams, Scott Belford, of course, John Panette. John Panette, I don't even know who that is. So we'll save that for later on in the conversation because they have questions for you. Scott Belford is with the Walkoff podcast, covers Blue Jays baseball, but all of MLB. And he's also a stand-up comic too. How rattled are you that the Blue Jays are going to Seattle down 0-2?
I mean, if we're going to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being incredibly rattled and 1 being not at all, then I'm a strong 9.5 here, Rod. This is not how I expected this ALCS to go down. I think that the Jays came out pretty flat in this series. I mean, they had such a huge advantage, and maybe they truly thought that they were going to get an easier road in game 1 than they did, right? I mean, the Seattle Mariners went, 15 innings against the Detroit Tigers in the ALDS game 5. Their pitching staff was on short rest. Bryce Miller, their starter, was their number 5 starter and was coming in on 3 days rest. You really looked like things were lining up for them to at least take 1 at home and probably even 2. And now they're down 0-2 going back to Seattle. 9.5.
Well, I was searching bloodthirstily, I guess, this morning for criticism of John Schneider for yanking his 2 starting pitchers in games 1 and 2 early, and I couldn't find it from anywhere. A little more for Gosman in game 1 than there was for Savage in game 2, but I don't think I'm wrong. Like Darcy in Grand Prairie, the guy that said that your podcast is his go-to, he writes in and he says, how do you feel about Shane Bieber starting tomorrow? Do you think the Jays will sign him this offseason? And does our tendency to pull our starters early affect starting pitchers signing with us?
So I don't think it does affect starting pitchers signing with the Blue Jays, because this is not a Blue Jays centric problem in baseball right now. This is more or less the way the sport has gone, is shortening the amount of innings that the starting pitchers going to the bullpen sooner. Now, when it comes to Kevin Gosman, I am with you, Rod. I really did feel like they pulled him too early. That said, I'm not saying that's why they lost game 1, because they had 2 hits and no hard contact after the 4th. If you expect to beat a team with 1 run, 99% of the time, you're probably going to come up short. Now, as for pulling Trey Savage yesterday, I think that was a little bit more strategic than maybe people are giving credit to. And I actually even feel they probably shouldn't have even put him out into the 4th inning there. I mean, he's 22 years old. This is the most innings he's ever pitched. And huge moment. He got out of some rough spots there, which all the credit to him. And I love this kid, by the way. So this is not anything detracting from him. But he did pitch 20 plus pitches in each of those 3 innings, and his velo was down. His regular velo sits around 95 miles an hour, and he was sitting at 92.8, so he had taken a dip. You know, it feels like it was the wrong move, because Varland came up and gave up a 3-run home run. And yeah, you give up home runs in big spots like that, you're going to lose the game. I mean, they gave up 3 dingers, 2 of which were 3-run home runs. You just can't do that in an ALCS game. Yeah, I prefer, Rod, honestly, to let the starters go. But I'm old. You know, like,
well, it's also,
I feel like anyone 40 and older, that's just tends to be their view on things.
Right, but it's not June or July. Like, now is the time to ride those guys, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Kevin Gosman especially. I mean, this is the guy that they went out and paid $105 million over 5 years to be their ace. They went out and got him for this moment, right? They went out to get him to pitch in game 1 of a huge series. And he was rolling. I mean, the truth is he was absolutely dominating. And yes, he gave up a run and things started to get to that pull the collar moment. Sometimes you got to let a guy get out of a tough situation without constantly babying him going to the bullpen. And again, this is not a Toronto-centric problem. This is something that has kind of reared its ugly head across baseball. And when it comes to the Gosman pull, yeah, not a fan.
Tony from the Bridge City writes in on the Western Dodge text line. He says, hey, good morning, Rod. This Blue Jay fan is licking his wounds after Seattle masterly pitched their way to a 2-0 lead over the Blue Jays. Going to be tough for Toronto to rebound, but I think they can turn it around. Got to stay positive. Kirk writes in. He is also in the Bridge City. He says the Jays manager should not have pulled Gosman in game 1, but did make the right call taking out Savage in game 2. Scott Belford just explained why. I guess we've seen comebacks in league championship series before. This ain't over, right?
No, it's not. It's not. And I mean, if you want to go back in history and look at some of the moments, you know, it happened just 2 years ago with the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2023. So this is not something that is ideal. And it's probably happens about 15% of the time where a team goes up 2-0 and then blows it. So it's not very good odds, but it's not impossible at all. And this is a Toronto Blue Jays team that all year long has come back in big moments. This is a Toronto Blue Jays team who we have seen their bats go cold, very similarly to what we saw in Toronto, and then just pull themselves out of it. And so, yeah, are they behind the 8 ball? Absolutely. Are they out of this thing? No. And I, as a Toronto Blue Jays diehard, am not ready to call this quits either. So, you know what? I might be a little delusional, but I'm prepared to buy into that delusion.
A lot to get to here with Scott Belford, stand-up comic, host of the Walkoff podcast. And just so, to be honest, the last thing I'll bring up on this, going into the playoffs, I heard a whole lot about payrolls of the field that we're in. And here are the top six: Dodgers, Yankees, Padres, Red Sox, Mets, Cubs. About half of those maybe 4 of the 6 got in. So how are you on spending to get to this point? A lot of guys didn't.
No, it's true. And I mean, the Toronto Blue Jays are also one of the highest payrolls in baseball, right? They were top 10 in the league right now. And I think that it does go to show you, if you look at these teams that are left, the Dodgers and Jays, big spending teams, the Brewers and the Seattle Mariners, not. And if you're not going to be a big spending team, you really need to rely on player development and good drafting, something that Seattle has excelled at. I mean, we're watching them graduate a bunch of their top prospects who are helping this team right now and still, Rod, be one of the top farm systems in all of baseball. This is something that the Toronto Blue Jays have struggled with as player development in the past. And yes, they are starting to show signs, bright spots like Trey Savage, like Ricky Tiedemann. I know he was injured over the season coming back from Tommy John surgery. That's just something pitchers deal with in these days. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been pretty vocal about not being pleased with the Toronto Blue Jays player development over the last few years. And I will give them credit. 2025 does seem like a more successful year in that aspect to them. But if you're going to spend money, you can really bandage up some of those areas where, you're not looking so good. So did the Toronto Blue Jays spend too much on glove first guys? Probably. Did they spend too much on some of their starting pitching? Probably. Is it working out right now? It is. And you know what? If you're Rogers Communications, let me tell you, they are not crying over the money they're losing. They are making bank right now. So
I'm dying to talk stand-up comedy with you, just so you know. Just listening to you,
yes,
I feel like I can hear your routine. But you are Canadian, which would mean you're a hockey fan, correct?
I am a hockey fan.
Okay. You're going to make picks with me just straight up here for the NHL. We do it breakaway bets every day. It hasn't really caught on with the betting companies in that we don't wager any money. It's just for fun. I call it sport betting. It's like sport fishing, where you catch the fish and throw it back. We just make the picks, and we just maybe wager a fun lunch or something like that. But there's 8 games tonight. If you're ready to rock and roll with me, Seattle at Montreal tonight. Yeah, Seattle at Montreal tonight. Who wins?
I am not a Montreal fan, so this is a bias here, but I'm going to go with Seattle, despite the fact that Montreal probably has the betting odds.
And Seattle is 2-0, by the way, but I'm going to take Montreal as they announced new contracts for their GMs today. Nashville at Toronto. Woo, woo, woo. Big day in Leafland. Who wins, Leafs or Preds?
Well, I'm also not a Leafs fan, but I will go with the Leafs in this one.
I got the... Yeah, I'll take the Leafs too. The Edmonton Oilers, hence my orange shirt, visit the New York Rangers tonight.
I think I'm going to go with the Oilers on this. Now, Rod, I am a Flames fan, so it pains me a little bit to say that. But yeah, I think over the Rangers, I think the Oilers have the edge.
I will take the New York Rangers, just because, despite my orange shirt. The Tampa Bay Lightning visit the Washington Ovi and the Washington Capitals tonight. It's on ESPN for those that may want to indulge. Tampa at Washington. Who do you like?
Let's get crazy. Let's go with the Capitals.
I am as well. Okay, your Flames home to the Vegas Golden Knights. Did Joe tell you that we're live across Nevada every day on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network? Big Golden Knights fans here. Yeah, it's a big deal. You're making your Vegas debut here, Scott.
So I will say this, all right? I think that the Golden Knights will win this game, but I am saying the Flames because I cannot go against and bet against my team. So I'm going with the Flames despite thinking the Knights probably the better team in this matchup.
last place in the Pacific I saw when I looked up the standings this morning. The Flames. But I will take Vegas to win tonight. Minnesota at Dallas, and I want to thank our viewer in Washington State for pointing out that the Stars are unbeaten as well. Minnesota at Dallas. Who do you like there?
I'm going to go with Dallas in this one.
Okay, times 2. Carolina, they're also unbeaten. against the winless San Jose Sharks. The Sharks are 0-2. Who do you like there?
See, I like the Hurricanes, and that seems like an easy one, but it does feel like the Sharks are due, but I am going to take the Canes in this one.
You're going with the odds. Smart.
Yeah.
And finally, Pittsburgh at Anaheim. It's a penguin against a duck. Who wins a war in a penguin and a duck?
I'm going to go with Crosby and the boys there in Pittsburgh.
I love it. Sidney Crosby. I love saying that. I'll take Anaheim just to be a fly in the ointment. Okay.
Sure. Contrary.
Scott Belford with us from the Walkoff podcast, stand-up comic. We may come back around to sports. I'm not sure. We still have a lot of time left in this segment. And I never get tired of this discussion. I believe I asked you last time you were on who was your favorite all-time stand-up comic, but forgive me, I forgot. I'm old. Who is it?
Well, I'm going to go with George Carlin. But if we're just talking all time, and it's funny how in the way the world is right now, you always hear as a kid, history repeats itself, and it kind of feels that way. And a lot of things that George Carlin was talking about in the final years of his life just seem to be more on the nose than ever before. So yeah, I got to go with old Georgie boy.
Listen, you gotta help me out. Like, I barely know anything about George Carlin. He was the skinny guy with the ponytail, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what was he
love,
saying?
Rod,
Yeah,
what I love about George Carlin is that he had so many different iterations of his stand-up. So in the 70s, he was the goofy, kind of fun guy, stayed clean, was very palatable to the masses. And then in the 80s, he kind of went through a divorce and a battle with coke addiction, and his stand-up turned quite dark and kind of like went off on a different angle altogether. And then in the 90s, he became very politically driven and was very much on anti-billionaire and pro-worker and all that sort of thing. So it was kind of cool to watch him kind of morph decade to decade in just what he kind of went through with his life and how he felt. So that was always something that I really respected about George Carlin. But also, I'm a huge fan. You mentioned Bill Cosby. I remember going to go see Bill Cosby with my grandma, and we both laughed so hard. And of course, now you can't really show much love for Cosby because of the horrible monster he turned out to be. But, at comedy, he was always a very, very funny man, and he kind of broke down generations, and you could enjoy him no matter what era you kind of were born in.
And it was clean. And that's it. It's the one thing I've learned as we go to more and more stations and more networks. I got to be careful what I say, because I did learn that Bill Cosby's not in jail. Somebody challenged me on that. I'm like, look it up. They're like, no, he's not in jail, which proves a whole other thing, which, speaking of dark, let's stop going down that road. I brought that up. But I brought it up, not you, but the one line of his that I'll never forget. Watch it when I was just little, that he said to one of his kids, listen, I brought you in this world. I'll take you out. I never forgot that, because I'm like, my parents would say the exact same thing.
Yes, me too.
Can we just talk about Dice for a second? Because somebody said a while back that he'd been canceled. I'm like, how do you cancel a comedian, period, let alone Andrew Dice Clay? That's not true, is it?
I don't think it's so true these days. Andrew Dice Clay is still out on the road and performing and doing Vegas stuff, and he's around. I mean, yeah, there was some pushback to some of the stuff he said, but I mean, that's one of the aspects of stand-up comedy, in my opinion. If you're not challenging some opinions and upsetting some people, you're probably not for me, anyways.
BW in Edmonton writes in. He says George Carlin does a hilarious routine about the difference between baseball and football.
He does.
Yeah, I have not seen that, but some of you saw the names that were there's so many comedians. Have you seen that top 100 list? Like, we know.
Oh, it's
the top 100 is like all household names.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I know that it's been really interesting to see how more and more stand-up comedians have kind of started to get into the acting side of things and getting into sitcoms and shows like that. You go back to the 70s and the 80s, and maybe it was like a more purist kind of type of stand-up comic where you would only get to see them on stage, and then you slowly started to see guys like Pryor and stuff like that move into television. And then nowadays, I mean, it's if you're a stand-up comic, you probably do it all.
Yeah, well, I mentioned BW in Edmonton here. We have a ton of Alberta viewers. Where can they see you this week?
I am actually in Alberta right now. So I head up to Grand Prairie tomorrow, and then I'm all the hot spots, Rod. I'm at the Boston Pizza in Dawson Creek, and then I'm playing the Nova Inn in Manning, Alberta, and then I'm playing Peace River Brewing Company up in PR on Saturday nights. So get your tickets, folks.
This is absolutely fantastic. I'm guessing you're going to be on stage when the Blue Jays are playing. How's that going to work?
Oh, it's gonna kill me. I was doing a little brewery in Sylvan Lake on Sunday during the game 1. And yeah, it was not ideal, but I mean, I make my living as a stand-up, so sometimes you just need to sacrifice where you need to sacrifice.
We all do it. You do what you got to do. And this reminds me, by the way, the day that Don Rickles died, I was in Las Vegas, and they had all the flags at half mast, and they had like a blackout across the city at like 10 p.m. when he was used to taking the stage. I don't know why that popped into my mind, but Don Rickles was like, it was like Mr. Vegas. Of course. Yeah, me too. It's a respect. Love the industry. I love talking about it with you. And it's funny because once we got going into this, time went away like that. So Scott, I want to thank you for this. And where can people follow you real quick?
Well, you can follow the Walkoff podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Google and Apple and Spotify and all that stuff. And then you can also follow the video side of things on YouTube. I've also been doing a lot of live blogging and stuff like that with CTV News over this playoff run, so you can kind of follow me there. Or if you are a stand-up comic fan.
And he's got to go. We got the most of it there. Scott Belford, look him up, everybody. Sports update coming up. Silver State Sports Entertainment Network and Game Plus.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network and Game Plus TV. That was a lot of fun. We covered a lot of ground with Scott Belford from the Walkoff podcast, talking baseball and stand-up comedy. And from time to time, we're just going to venture off the sports road. That's what I've always wanted. I call this the view for sports fans, but a coffee table discussion about whatever. Glenn's watching in medicine hat. People still chiming in with their favorite stand-up comics. He says, none better than George Carlin. Wayne in Victoria, BC says, Don Rickles was hilarious with his put-downs. He was great on roasts. Well, let me tell you a story. You know, we've had such a Vegas imprint long before we went on television in Nevada. I heard a story, and I believe it was in my favorite steakhouse. This happened in Vic and Anthony's. Y'all know where that is? In the Golden Nugget. There was a story I heard back when Sinatra was running Vegas and Don Rickles too. Apparently Don Rickles was on the restaurant side with his family, wife and kids. And over in the bar side, Sinatra and his crew were tearing it up. And on the way to the bathroom, Rickles stops and says to Frank, hey, Frank, on your way out, would you mind coming over and saying hi to my wife and kids? It would mean a lot to us if you did. And Frank said, no problem. No problem, Don. Hour or so goes by, and all of a sudden they're paying their check, their bill, and the Rickles family's about to leave. Frank comes over. He's like, hey, Don, good to see you. Good to see you. How's it going, everybody? And Rickles goes, Frank, please. I'm here with my family. Pa-dum-bum. We don't have the sound effect for that, but it's damn funny as far as I'm concerned. Jeff the Stamps fan writes in, he says, I'd also like to give a shout out to Rodney Dangerfield. That's the whole thing about the list of the top 100 comedians of all time. He would be on it. They're all household names on the top 100. Hard racket to make a gig in. Ron in Calgary writes in, he says, absolutely, George Carlin, best comedian ever. I better go look up some of his routines because I couldn't tell you one thing he said. Back to sports. DG writes in from the Bridge City. He says, I have one positive from the Mariners game 2. I, for one, am excited to watch Josh Naylor and his brother Bo from the Cleveland Guardians wearing the maple leaf in next spring's World Baseball Classic. Oh, and he says, what does Scott think of Canada's chances there? We'll ask him next time he's on. And by the way, DG from Saskatoon, I want to thank him. He came to our event in Las Vegas at the Super Bowl that we hosted at the Clark County Amphitheater. Never forgot that. Thank you, DG, for helping us out that day. A sports update for Ultimate Fan Zone. The NBA is using automated officiating to enhance game accuracy. This technology, which includes cameras and sensors, helps referees make precise calls by tracking players and the ball. An example is LeBron James' buzzer beater against the Pacers, where technology confirmed the correct call. The NBA aims to improve game flow and transparency with shorter review times and clearer explanations for fans. CFL notes Saskatchewan Roughriders signing their GM Jeremy O'Day and head coach Corey Mace to 2-year contract extensions today. From the NFL, Brian Callahan is the first head coach to be fired this season, and more may follow soon. Last year, 3 coaches were fired midseason. The Dolphins at 1-5 have Mike McDaniel on the hot seat. Tua Tagovailoa's comments about teammates being late to meetings have raised questions about team culture here in Miami. Aaron Glenn a top coaching candidate during the last hiring cycle, is struggling with rookie mistakes with the Jets. They're off to a rough start, and the Ravens are also struggling at 1-5, which has called into question the future of their head coach, John Harbaugh. The trend of firing coaches mid-season continues with mixed results for teams making these changes. Maybe you should tell me, as we hurtle towards overtime, who will be the next head coach fired in the NFL and who will be the first fired in the NHL? And we'll talk about why that's a sticky topic when we come back for overtime. The sports update is brought to you by Ultimate Fan Sports Store, Moose Jaw, the Ultimate Fan Zone Sports Store in Moose Jaw. Get your game day gear in store or online at ultimatefanzone.ca. And while we're at it, load them up. 902-518-3033 for Western Dodge. 902-518-3033. Experience the Western Dodge difference. Local, reliable, and driven to find the perfect vehicle for you. We'll be back with overtime right after this here on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network, Game Plus TV, YouTube Live, podcast, and of course, 1700 AM Mission Radio. One more chance, 902-518-3033. We'll be back right after this.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too.
Al-Anon and
Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Looking for a new ride without the big city pressure? Come to Western Dodge in Moose Jaw, where you'll find an unbeatable lineup of Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Dodge Muscle, and Chrysler family rides. With knowledgeable staff, Great prices and that friendly moose jaw touch, you'll drive away with confidence. Western Dodge. Big selection, small town service. Visit us today or browse online at westerndodge.ca. Program brought to you in part by CoolBet. You're going to bet anyways. Why would you not take advantage of their welcome bet bonus offer with the promo code RP200? You can claim your welcome bet bonus up to $200. Again, it's the promo code RP200 at coolbet.com. Canadian viewers only, sorry. And also, we're brought to you by Overtime Hockey Lanes in this segment, Overtime. If you're looking for the perfect place to perfect your shot, look no further than Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where the Golden Knights are visiting the Flames tonight. If any of you Vegas fans or staff are looking for something to do on game day, head on down to check them out. 28th Street, Northeast, Calgary. As I like to say, it's an amusement park for hockey players. Take my word for it. So, again, as I said, it's the last segment, 902-518-3033. I'm smiling because I see our friend Cardinal Ryan has showed up from upstate New York. And everybody is on this stand-up comedy bit, which is good. Ryan says there's a story of Don Rickles on the set of Dirty Work. He was given lines, but Rickles ignored the script and went full improv with Norm Macdonald and Artie Lang. Bob Saget kept the scene. LOL. Nothing would surprise me from what I hear about Don Rickles. Oh, and with this Blue Jays Seattle Mariners series, I mean, it's, our viewers in Nevada are starting to realize, I'm an original Canadian. Most of our viewers are Canadian. And those that aren't are Americans that enjoy Canadian sports. Yet I live in Florida. I know it's a little confusing, not to me. But those fans are talking a lot about this Toronto-Seattle American League Championship Series, which has been, the build-up's been fantastic. The series has been the craps. Seattle's up 2-0, heading home for games 3, 4, and 5 if necessary. But the question is, what's the split going to be of Blue Jays fans versus Mariners fans? Because that's always the thing. When the Blue Jays visit Seattle once a year, the park is overrun by Blue Jays fans. Usually BC, province of British Columbia, baseball fans, Jays fans overtake the stadium. Or a lot of Canadians take advantage of Seattle's beauty and had to make a holiday. It's not just BC people. A lot of Blue Jays fans from across Canada show up. Scott in Vancouver, for instance, writes in, he says, I think Mariners fans who bought packages during the year get priority on playoff tickets too. So there should be more Mariners fans. I would think so in the American League Championship Series, but I guess we'll have to tune in and find out. And anyways, the story that I wanted to get to earlier, like way back in hour one when Scruffy was with us, this talk of the NFL, Brian Callahan being the first coach to be fired, who's the next? It's not hard. Going into the NFL season, there were all these hot seat indexes to see who was on the hot seat and where. And Callahan in Tennessee led the list. Mike McDaniel here. Shane Steichen, interestingly enough, in Indianapolis. And now here they are at, 4-1? They flipped the script on that one. But when it came to hockey, last year I was writing for a South Florida newspaper. And I did a 10 things column every week in it, the South Florida Tribune. And one of the points in there, I said, who's going to be the first coach fired? And I had some hockey people pull me aside who didn't realize that I'm a hockey person first as it is. They're like, yeah, we don't really talk about coach firings in hockey. I'm like, yeah, well, we're going to in the South Florida Tribune. Like, I get it, but trust me, I do. It's an uncomfortable thing that people don't want to talk about, but we're in the entertainment business. And if you're afraid as an NHL coach of having your job being talked about by the media, maybe you're in the wrong profession. And the interesting thing about that is the guys that were on the hot seat weren't the guys that were fired first. It was Jim Montgomery in Jim Montgomery in Boston, who was fired first, and 5 days later was hired in St. Louis. Derek Lalonde in Detroit was on that. Mike Sullivan in Pittsburgh. They all ended up getting fired, interestingly enough. Yeah. And so anyways, I don't want to ruffle feathers. I don't. I've been on this NHL beat now for a few years. I don't need to be making any enemies. I got enough. I don't need any more. And I asked Scruffy last hour who he thought would be the first NHL coach fired. He's like, can we at least wait for the water to be turned up on the stove first? Like, we're nowhere near that. And I'm like, okay. I mean, listen, I didn't like it. Andrew Brunette of Nashville, I put on the hot seat indexed in the NHL, and Andrew Brunette is a great guy. Coached the Panthers to a President's Trophy here in South Florida, still has a home in Fort Lauderdale. He's a great guy, but they were one of the biggest disappointments last year, which incidentally enough, he never did get fired. But I don't know, it's fun to talk about, and I'm like, it's pro sports, for the love of God. The NFL guys aren't worried about it. Why are the hockey guys worried about it? You know, and we talk about the Golden Knights. They kept firing coaches over and over and over again until they got the right one, and it's worked. It's worked with Bruce Cassidy. I don't get why some things are taboo, and some things I'll talk about, and some things I guess I won't. But Navy Don writes in, he says, "Go Mariners, love the Trident, since I'm a Navy guy." That is pretty cool. Wait a minute, you don't like the Blue Jays, Don? Mr. Pro Canada? Yeah, well, producer Corey says he doesn't like the Blue Jays either. Yeah, but you're from Ottawa? Is that why you hate all things Toronto? I guessed it, didn't I? He's talking in my ear. Nobody can hear it. He says he loves the Raptors. Navy Don, Mr. Pro Canada, is cheering against the Mariners. I'll be thinking about that. For the Mariners against the Blue Jays. That seems decidedly anti-Canadian. To moi. Anyways, hockey analyst Jared Dumba from the famous hockey-playing Dumba family will join us tomorrow to do a deep dive on the NHL playoffs. We'll be teeing up Game 3 of the ALCS. And a lot of football talk, as we always do. Thanks for joining us today, everybody, on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. And, of course, our overlord, Game Plus TV. See you tomorrow.
That.